Okay, welcome in everyone. We can take a little bit of time to get settled and give some of our friends the chance to see that this event is happening, and then I'll offer some kind of guidance for the meditation. But we can already just arrive. Meditation comes naturally, and dropping views, dropping ideas. But not dropping ideas as the notion, but as the practice. Don't use the idea of dropping ideas to justify or explain anything, right? Oh, I'm dropping ideas. Don't do it like that. But the practice that you're working on within yourself of dropping the grasping onto mental objects in particular, ideas in particular. I'll share the view a little bit. Matt, this building is a monastery for the monks to live and practice meditation, and also yogis or meditators may also come here to practice meditation. Is everyone online able to hear the birds and the chanting in the distance? So for temporariness, for impermanence, when we are experiencing something that is troubling or difficult or confusing, we may remember this teaching that whatever arises will pass away. Whatever comes into being will go away. And we don't need to experience that thing going away to know that it will go away, right? So we have been born. This body has been born. Many bodies previously have been born. And we don't need to experience our own death to know that this body is impermanent, that this body will pass away. But this remembering of impermanence is primarily about to stop grasping, to stop holding on to stop fixating on. Because we know if something is temporary, if something is impermanent, then even if we are holding on to it now, we will not be able to continue holding on to it in the future because it will pass away, because it will go away. So, impermanence, this teaching on impermanence, it helps us to stop grasping, stop getting a hold of something. It's some spiritual chanting. The Sri Lankan people are very spiritual people, so there are many Hindus here, many Buddhists here, very spiritual people here in Sri Lanka. As you can see, the vista gives it away, the spiritual vista. Now, there's a teaching I heard recently that I really like to share with the group. Okay. So, the Buddha is not good or bad, right? Impermanence is not good or bad. Uh, Enlightenment is not good or bad. We can say it is good as opposed to bad, but ultimately, enlightenment is not about duality. right? A Buddha does not dwell in dualism, or an Arahant does not dwell in dualism, right? Does not dwell in self and other, does not dwell in preferences. So, hearing this, right, and understanding this, the ultimate, the Kundalini, total awakening, freedom, we may very well say, I would say, right? So, all right, I want the juice. Get rid of the water. I just want the juice. But we're confronted with when we approach real spirituality. Okay, when we approach real spirituality, we're confronted with the water, and this water is the world of good and bad. This water is the world of and the importance of doing good and not doing bad, doing good deeds and not doing bad deeds, dana and sila. So our generosity, which is a taboo in American society, and also our virtue, which maybe is also a bit of a taboo or a bit of an obscure idea in our American society, and more maybe in modern societies as a whole. So we want the juice, but we only have the water. The water is here. We can do a helpful thing, we can be generous, or we can be selfish. We can do a good deed or we can do a bad deed. Most people are in a frame of mind and a way of being like that, that at this moment they they have some options, they have some opportunities. They can do a good deed, they can do a bad deed, right? But we don't really like the water. We want the juice. We don't like that we're in this situation where we're not being pleasured, right? We're not actively getting return on our investment or something like that. And thank you, Rose, for your support. And then when someone comes along and tells us, stop, you need to focus on being good and not being bad, like how we would speak to a child. We don't like it so much. We say, who you're bad, you're mean, So the Buddhist monk or the real spiritual teacher worth their salt, they're going to be emphasizing for you to be good, for you to be a good person, for you to be generous, for you to focus on your sila, your precepts. There's two dimensions of precepts, a precept body or sila. One is for a lay people, like the five precepts: don't kill, don't steal, don't lie or speak harshly, be very careful with your sexual energy, and don't take the drugs or intoxicants. Don't drink alcohol, don't smoke weed most of the time for most people, okay? That's the deal. And then for a monk, we have 227, celibacy, and many other precepts. We also can't kill people. So this is kind of the worldly precepts, more easy to understand and the fewer. The other dimension is the precepts of not doing the activities that feed clinging, frustration, and non-practical complicated thinking. Or we may more often know this as moha, lobha, dosa, or as greed, anger, delusion, right? So these are the real precepts, the subtle, the spiritual precepts. And this applies as much as it applies to monks as it applies to lay people. But for this, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of precepts. You can't memorize these precepts, right? That moment by moment, there are actions that we take, that we may take or may not take, right? That promote clinging, grasping, that promote greediness, that promote frustration in ourselves or others. We're all in a community together. Or promote kind of non practical, complicated thinking. Why do you care about this? Why are you talking about this? What do you actually want to do? What's your intention here? What are you doing here? And most of the time, you know, in our modern world, it's going to be the solicitor. Most of the time, it's going to be the solicitor that comes and knocks on our door. We should be grateful. We should be very grateful that it's the monk coming to knock on our door, regardless of why they're there, you know, most of the time. Especially if they're there to share with us or give us something, you know, they're not there to get anything. They're just there to be generous. We should be grateful and respectful and kind and reverent, in fact. Even if, I mean, that's even just for anyone. If you're a Buddhist, come on, what are you talking about? You should really appreciate the monk coming and knocking on your door. But anyway, most of the time, we are going to have solicitors knocking at our door. They want to sell us something, they want to promote something. I don't know what they want to do, but they're knocking at the door. And in our usual way of life, we're going to say, "What do you want?" And then when they say, "I want you to buy this," you say, "Get out of here, go away." But at a certain point, we need to be in a position to leave our own home. Because sometimes the solicitor will not go away. So we have to abandon. We have to detach. We have to forgive. We have to renunciate. Because we're not going to be able to control the world according to our whims. So we have to be willing to renunciate, to put down, to detach, to abandon. Now, this is the prajna wisdom of willingness to renounce, willingness to detach, willingness to abandon, and seeing the efficacy of that. Because for a lot of people, if you said a story like that to them, they'll say, "No, you know, I've got a gun, I've got a sword, I'm going to fight the solicitor. I'm going to get them out of there. This is my home. I'm an American. I'm going to defend it." Well, that's not the point, right? The point is that sometimes we need to detach. Sometimes we need to let go. Sometimes we need to recognize that the environment is not under our control. And so the only way we can free ourselves from the environment is to abandon the environment, to detach from the environment, to leave the environment, or leave our entanglements, our clinging in the environment, right? That's the insight point here. If a solicitor comes to your home and then you walk out and you leave your home, well, you can come back later. So that's not the prajna. That's not the wisdom point, isn't it? And that's also a confusion point for people. You, Bhante, you, Bhante, you're telling people to leave their home for the solicitor when they come. What are you doing? You've gone mad, Bhante. What kind of monk are you? When the salesman comes to your home, you told the people to leave their home. What are you doing? What's going to happen to the world now? Well, why can't you just go back home after maybe you go for a walk, then you come back home, right? So it's not the end of the world. It's not too bad. Not too scary. Ooga booga. Oh. Okay. We're all trying our best, you know? Uh, so let's continue. You see? We're all trying the best we can do. And we should do more. So the point is that the merits, the good deeds, the precepts, the generosity, the dana, the sila, the practicing meditation, etc. It is preparing us to be able to touch the insight, to contact the insight, to experience it at that moment. Because if we don't do this preparation, if we don't practice dana, if we don't maintain our sila, our precepts, either the the construct precepts or the subtle dhamma precepts of moment by moment actions that create grasping or fuel greed or fuel frustration or fuel non-practical complicated thinking, not doing those things and doing those things that reduce those energies, right? Those more subtle precepts. If we don't focus on that, if we don't live in that kind of way, then the Dhamma will not be able to reach us. That we will go to a Dhamma talk, but we won't be able to get the benefits or get the merits, to open our Dhamma eye at that moment. We will be stuck. We will continue to spiral and be lost in what? Non practical, complicated thinking, going around causing trouble for people because we are confused in ourselves. I was talking with another monk yesterday in the pine forest behind me. You see it? The pine forest behind me. And we were talking about this squirrel has just come up on the flat surface of this pagoda and it's more of like a chipmunk and has grabbed a hold of a beetle that I previously went and turned over because it had fallen on its back. And this chipmunk has come along and picked up that beetle and eat it up like a nut. So anyway, I was talking with that monk yesterday, and we speak about how sometimes in the life of a monk or the life of a Dhamma teacher, someone who is sharing about the Dhamma and has the intention to help others to understand about Buddhism, sometimes we can encounter, and anyone in our lives, right? We can encounter people who have a bucket full of water that is a bucket full of their attachments, their ideas, their perceptions, their stories, right? And it goes also to the story of the Zen monk and the professor who wants to have tea, and then the professor asking so many questions about this and that and this and that. And then when the Zen monk goes to give him his tea, he overfills his cup. His cup is overfilling. The professor says, "What's going on?" And the Zen monk says, "Look, when your cup is full, you can't take any more. You've got to empty your cup. We all have to empty our cup." But then we will encounter people in our lives who have this big bucket full of their perceptions, their notions, their non practical, complicated thinking, their ideas about the world. This big bucket of water that they say is so important to them. I've got to have this bucket. This is the good, important bucket of things, right? And then when you interact with that person and maybe you notice that they're carrying this big bucket of water around, right? This big bucket of attachments and perceptions around, and you try to help them kind of release and relax some of their perceptions, they throw that bucket of water on you. And then it immediately fills back up and they look at you. So, how do we deal with those kind of people? How do we deal with those kind of situations? Well, we learn how to dry ourselves off and be on our way. There are plenty of people who need help in the world. There are plenty opportunities for doing good deeds. There are plenty of people who are carrying around these buckets, children especially, of their attachments, their suffering, their greed, their anger, their delusion. So when we encounter those people who are so ready to throw this bucket of water, this bucket of preconceptions and perceptions onto us when we try to help them or interact with them, we need to learn how to dry ourselves off and be on our way. And if you're skillful in drying yourself off, then you don't have to be too shy about trying to help those people out. But realize, sometimes that water is quite stinky. Sometimes it might not be water, it might be a big bucket full of human feces, and they might be very proud that they have that bucket full of their shit and that they can throw it all over you. And it will get all over you because we're not an arahat, we're not fully enlightened, so, we're likely to be covered in it. And at that time, we remember and we learn how to clean ourselves off and dry ourselves off with what? With our precepts, with our dana, with our doing good deeds, with our bhavana, with our practicing meditation, with our listening to Dhamma. I've seen on our Discord recently, some people have been sharing some talks in the place where we share Dhamma talks on the Discord from Ajahn Sumedho and some of the Plum Village teachers, and that's great to see because that's really treasure. This is a community of treasure, Dhamma treasure. And whatever treasure we have, we can share, we can give, we can offer, we can help the others. And the greatest treasure is the Dhamma. So the greatest dana, the greatest generosity we can do is what? It's to develop ourselves to a very high degree, to understand the Buddha's teachings, to be a good person and a kind person and a mindful person and a wise person. That is the greatest gift that we can give the world for sure. And that's not about writing books. It's not about writing a book about your... It's not about writing a book about your life. or having these kind of situations that you look on and say, oh, well, this worked out, or I'm in this situation or that situation. No, it's a moment by moment experiencing, right? We stay with those precepts. We come back to our mindfulness. There's that chipmunk eating the beetle again. It's more like it's like a rat chipmunk. And it would be a chip. We don't usually think of chipmunks eating beetles on the top of the meditation center or the vihara. And yet we don't usually think about being in Sri Lanka, and yet here we are. So the usual, or what seems to be, that's not really meaning anything. That doesn't mean anything. That's just nonsense. That's certainly not the Dhamma. Well, it seems like this, it seems like that. How about you want to build a house? Or for me, you want to build a temple, you want to build a monastery, and you get a carpenter, you get a builder that comes along, and, well, it seems like this, it seems like that. They want to ask other people, what does this seem like to you? What do you want to ask other people how to build the building? That's not the good sign. You see a person like that, you can be sure you don't want them to build your house, right? Seems like this, seems like that. I heard this, I heard that. This person said that. Look, I don't know I don't know why I called you, but please don't build my house. Please go away. Isn't it? We have to watch out for the kind of because we take refuge in things. We take refuge in people in very subtle ways from moment to moment, right? We take refuge in someone's decision making process. We take refuge in what someone wants us to do. And then we find ourselves kind of wrapped up or tangled up in a situation that maybe we don't necessarily believe in. And when it comes to building the house of our mind, when it comes to building the house of our practice, we need to be sure and we need to be careful that we don't take refuge in and that we don't rely on people who seem to be confused about seeming. Seeming is just seeming. It seems to be this way, it seems to be that way. There's nothing to be confused about in that. Self view is a wrong view. The view of someone at some place at some time is the wrong view. It's the view of greed, anger, and delusion. It's the view of grasping. Okay? It's the wrong view. Now, to embody that is a very high level of practice and enlightenment. To embody that is to be a sotapanna, to be a sakyagami, to be an arahat, something like that, to be a Buddha, right? But anyway, we can use the standard of that for how we navigate the Dhamma world and how we navigate our relationships with people who present themselves as being somewhat affiliated or representing the Buddha Dhamma, right? That we see how clearly are they stuck on wrong view, the view of someone. How deeply are they attached to the view of someone, of some place, of some time, of permanence, of separate self entities, of all phenomena being other than dukkha. Good one, Ariana. The opinions are just the opinions. The idea is just the idea. The experience is just the experience. That's it. Look, this chipmunk knows the Dhamma. There's a lot of people out there that don't know the Dhamma, but this chipmunk coming right along. Look at this. He poked his head up over the corner. Is there really a chipmunk? Is Bhante crazy? Okay. clear out the skepticism. You should be too practical in your life, in terms of what you do, in terms of what you're interested in, to give way to skepticism, right? So it's like when you're cooking, when you're eating, maybe you have a family, so you cook for your family. That's a joyous affair, is it not? You have the opportunity to cook a sumptuous meal. The monkeys over there. So that's a good opportunity, and that's a precious thing, right? Oh, the chipmunk came closer. Come here. What's going on, bud? Come over here. Give me a kiss. So focus on things in your life that are practical and beneficial. Don't focus on things that are uh, easy to be skeptical about or have complicated thinking about. Detach from different types of senses, different kinds of ideas that come up, perceptions, how to let them go, how to put them down, and also how to kind of forgive our involvement and our tendency towards the greed, the anger, the delusion, so that we can give ourselves this space of starting again and coming back to center and coming back to this place of renewal. Because if we look at ourselves, if we look at our lives and we say, oh my gosh, I'm such a disaster, I've done all these horrible things, I can't control myself, I keep getting caught up in the same things again and again and again, well, that's really difficult. It's difficult to hold that kind of view and that kind of perspective about ourselves and then try to navigate in the world as a practitioner, to meditate, to do good deeds, because we've kind of already failed. So now we're going to try to improve, but we're improving from this position of being a failure. So we have to be strong and skillful to forgive ourselves and forgive the past, forgive the future, because the future might be very difficult, right? We will experience the karmic effects. We will experience the karmic retribution, the karmic payback from our past unskillful actions, of which there are many in this life and in past lives. If that wasn't the case, we would be a Buddha, we would be an Arhat or something. So, this forgiving ourselves, forgiving the past, and even forgiving the future, which may be very difficult, it puts us in a place of freedom to be in this moment and open to mindfulness and detachment, to open to the spaciousness of the mind, the inherent freedom. Let's do a little bit of repentance. I'm sure we've all been naughty boys and naughty girls and naughty non-binary agents in the world. So why don't we do a little bit of repentance? Okay? I will lead the chant. I will lead the repentance chant. Yeah, of course it's the squirrel coming to listen to the Dhamma. They can feel the profound energy of Bhante and they come close. They want to hear the Dhamma. But it's not complete yet. That's why they just poke their head and go away. Not yet complete, which is fine. We're getting there. We're making progress, everybody. Okay? So, this is the formula for the repentance chant. All my ancient, twisted karma, born of beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, formed of body, speech, and mind, I now fully atone. But should it be formed of greed, hate, and the karma is formed of, well, let's just do it. And you tried to follow along at home, okay, if you've heard this verse before. You can put your hands together like this. Oh my ancient twisted karma, born of beginningless greed, hate, and illusion, formed of body, speech, and mind. I now fully atone. Oh my ancient twisted karma, born of beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, formed of body, speech, and mind. I now fully atone. Oh my ancient twisted karma, born of beginningless greed, Speed and mind. I now fully atone. The mind is a clear blue sky. The mind is a clear blue sky. The foolish will see foolishness. The wise will see wisdom. This is the nature of the world. The blind will see blindness. The seers will see the seeing. So there's this idea that through politics or through education, somehow we can do the right thing or get the right point across, right? There's a lot of ideas out there about that. But politics is mostly advertising. You understand? Who people vote for, the side they believe that they affiliate with, is mostly because they were advertised to. That's how American politics works, for example. And it's also how our minds work. We think that we are this bastion of logic and authority and understanding, and we stand on our boots, and we understand things correctly according to what we know about. But the reality is that it's just a mind that is awash with greed or clinging, frustration, and non practical, complicated thinking. We pretend that we have this authoritative platform on which to understand different topics, different situations, etc. But the reality is that we do not. And that's what we digest, and that's what we work on when we focus on practice, right? When we focus on our uh, dana, sila, bhavana. The Buddha doesn't teach us to focus on interpersonal dynamics with other people. The Buddha teaches us to examine our own mind, and we will know according to the depth that we know our own mind. We won't know more than that, right? If you are a normal person, you cannot identify an arhat. You cannot identify a sotapanna. You don't know about it because you are a normal person, because you are attached, because you have not associated in the past with sotapannas or arahats, etc. You have not spent time extensively with meditation masters, for example. So you won't be able to identify someone who has wisdom or not, for the most part. That's why in the Buddhist community, if you are a Buddhist person, we take refuge in the sangha. The sangha is not just one particular monk. The sangha is whatever monks we can get our hands on, right? And then when something seems to be important to us that we cannot figure out or that we do not understand within ourselves or within the context of the Sangha, we have more experienced practitioners that are ordained members of the Buddhist monastic community to go to and to talk to, rather than just trying to figure things out on our own as lay people. You are not a Buddhist if you are just a layperson alone with other lay people. That's not Buddhism. That's something else. Maybe you call it something new, but that's not Buddhism. A Buddhist is someone who takes refuge in the triple gem. Okay, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. The Sangha is one of two things, really, actually, right? It is either the community of ordained monastics, so you can take refuge in them, and there's a lot of different traditions of ordained monastics, or and this is ordained monastics according to the Patimoksha, monastics that are celibate, right? This is not Zen priests. Zen priests are not Sangha members traditionally. Okay, there's something else. They have families, they have businesses, they have they give their temples to their sons and things. I mean, that sounds interesting and nice, but those are not traditionally members of the Sangha. So either ordained members of the Buddhist Sangha community, celibate monks or nuns, male or female, or non binary, uh, or people who are Sotapanna or above, people who have an actual degree of enlightenment. Now, as a normal person, determining if someone has an actual degree of enlightenment or not is impossible, completely impossible. You won't be able to do it. So, it's a better bet to take refuge in the Sangha, the community of ordained monastics. And pick your poison, there's a lot of them. Ajahn Suchart, Ajahn Sumedho, Ajahn Brahm, Venerable Kanda, who's Ajahn Brahm's preeminent Bhikshuni disciple, who's starting the Anukampa Bhikkhuni project in England. Take refuge in her. I like Master Young Hua, Thich Nhat Hanh, Tefab Lu, Tefab Yung, uh, Suko Ding Niem. I take refuge in the Sangha. I am a Buddhist, okay, and I am a Buddhist monk as well, but primarily I'm a Buddhist, and I have faith in Buddhism. I don't have faith in, you know, people hanging out and talking about stuff. That's not it for me. That's not enough for me. That's why I became a monk, because that did not satiate me. Okay? I needed live and in person and free. Okay? I need the best live in person, which this is a kind of proxy of, and free. So you're not going to get that in America in most places. That's why I'm in Sri Lanka. That's why I don't like living in America for the most part. And really, we have to we have to be open to stopping ourselves, right? And I talked about this recently about how foolish people are, how foolish you are. You're a fool. If you're watching this live or if you're watching this, there might be I don't think there's anyone here who's more enlightened that maybe will tune in. If there are, I'm not talking to you. But in general, the people who watch my live streams are fools. And in general, I am a fool. I can say it like that, right? Because in general, I am a fool. The people who watch my live streams, they will also be fools, all right? Please raise your hand if you're a fool, if you're foolish. Now, as we get more progress, friends, this will be less applicable, right? As we go on these degrees of enlightenment, as we reify ourselves, as we deepen our life in dana, sila, samadhi, bhavana, prajna, wisdom, then we won't be talking like that. Because we'll have faith in the Buddha Dharma. We'll have faith in the teachings of the Buddha. We'll have faith in our freedom and in our peace and in our insight. We'll know it for ourselves. So we will say, yeah, that person's a fool, but I'm not. But then we won't need to say that because our insight or our lack of foolishness is based on anatta, no separate self entities. And we can be too busy in our practice to be talking about the other people. That's also really good. And if we can say, hey, I'm a fool, that also protects us from the foolish people, right? Because just like the T Rex, the foolish people are like the T Rex. They can only see people who are moving around, not and not being fools. If you say, "Hey, I'm a fool," they can't see you. Yeah, the scary mind and forgiving and opening and gentling, right? But also not like trying to skirt around this experience or this matter that is a little bit scary. It is a little bit uncomfortable. It is a little bit intense. And actually, we need to apply this fear. We need to learn about applying this fear towards breaking our precepts, right? Doing what we shouldn't do, losing ourselves in these actions of greediness, of clinging, losing ourselves in these actions of frustration, losing ourselves in these actions of non-practical, complicated thinking. Monks live through generosity, period. And if you want accountability for generosity, then you have to first be generous. Otherwise, it's none of your business and you don't know what you're talking about anyway. And then, if you are generous in some way, and you want accountability for your generosity, and we use the traditional example of monks for this, but it's a deep point. Well, the monk goes by begging. Monks are beggars. We beg to live, right? The temple that I'm sitting on the top of right now, it was built through begging. It was built through generosity, through donations, okay? I'm sorry that in America we're so disgusted by the notion of generosity. It makes us feel quite aggressive, uncomfortable about generosity. So if the monk walks by and you want to practice generosity and you want food, you want to give them food or whatever, and then you want accountability or you want to take back what you gave, uh, you'll have to follow that monk around for a while and then go through their shit. Once that food passes through. Shit is not comfortable. Shit is not pleasing to the tongue, to the eye, to the ear, to the nose, to the body, to the mind. We don't like shit, and yet we're full of shit, unless you've been fasting for like more than 3 days. So you're full of shit. I'm full of shit. The world is shit. What are we going to do about it? Be aggressive to each other? Focus on things that aren't really that important to us, that we don't really care about? Focus on things that are not about helping, that are not about stopping and looking deeply and examining our own mind or helping others in a simple way? Is that what this world of shit is about? Should be about? No. It should be about being a good person and being generous and not going through other people's shit unnecessarily. There's always exceptions, there are always special cases. But special cases are for those people who are involved, not for spectators. And if you want to get involved, you get involved through the way of generosity. You don't get involved because you want to be negative or because you think that you're an important person that has something important to say. Who cares if you're an important person and you have something important to say? Take it somewhere else. That's right. That's right. One day, the monk life monastery will be sat on top of a mountain with a jacuzzi. I listened to Ajahn Brahm talk recently, and Ajahn Brahm was talking about, because he's a top 1%er monk, and he was invited to Malaysia or something like that. He's often going there, as many supporters in Malaysia, and they set him up. His accommodation for that time was in some really nice hotel in Malaysia or wherever it was, and the supporter that was helping him and making arrangements for travel and for housing and for all that in this Dhamma trip said, Ajahn Brahm, there's a bathtub here. So why don't I want you to take a bath. I want you to experience this. You usually don't get to have a bathtub or things like that, right? And Ajahn Brahm said, well, what do I want to take a bath for? But I think he did at that time take a bath. And then he said, wow. He said, what's the big deal? It's not that you're just sitting in hot water. So that's Ajahn Brahm's position on it, as I don't know what he must be, but a very enlightened person. And wow, look at the generosity flowing in. Oh, it's so nice. Thank you. It's beautiful, right? Generosity is beautiful. And I will try to be more generous in my life, you know? So, anyway, Ajahn Brahm said that, and it's kind of a pointer about, we don't, we should make light of sensuality. We should not be rigid. We should not be, and we should even be careful about making light of sensuality because ultimately it's just going to perpetuate dukkha. It's going to perpetuate our suffering. It's going to perpetuate our clinging, right? Unless we're doing it for like a medical purposes of some kind, right? Which is also fine. Sauna or hot spring or hot bath can be for, for the health of the body. But the path of Buddhism is apart. We are learning to detach from the body. So we need a body that has a certain degree of health to detach from the body, but we need to be very aware of the grasping quality of mind. And then he was saying that there's a monk at the temple in Australia that Ajahn Brahm runs that was saying, hey, let's get a jacuzzi. And Ajahn Brahm asked him, what are you going to use that for? Right? And it points to where our virtue really is. It's in being willing to let go and to not put these things, right? This temple on a mountain, this jacuzzi, this hot bath, uh, the temperature being a certain way, a person being a certain way, things going a certain way, things going according to our ability to understand them, to not put that on a pedestal, to not think that that is authoritative or that that's what we should focus on more than anything else. What are you going to use that for? What are you going to do with this thing, this story, this situation that you've grasped onto, that you're attached to? What are you going to use that for? What are you doing? Okay, thank you everyone for the super chats. The good thing about the super chats is that we get this live experience of generosity taking place, right? So we can see Morgan T practicing generosity and we can all celebrate it and we can all appreciate it. That is one of the good points of generosity. That is a part of the efficacy of generosity. It's not just about we're doing what we should do, but it's detachment. It's giving away what has value to us. It's putting down what we're holding on to and giving that away. And in this case, concerned with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. It is good to be generous. It is wonderful to be generous. Okay, thank you, Eli. And this is just like not about me. It's not about Bhante Varrapanyo. It's about mindfulness and detachment. It's about giving everything up. It's about really letting go, really being willing to let go. Okay? And we're keeping it simple. We're keeping it grounded, okay? There's no aliens communicating with me. I'm not claiming to be enlightened in some way. Um, keep it simple, right? Isn't this simple? I mean, is there something else going on here? What's there to be suspicious about? What's there to be skeptical about? Now, okay, instead of just making things up. We can all drive ourselves crazy. It's what we've been doing most of our lives, right? In some way or another. Or, Buddha forbid, driving other people crazy. Yeah, what about that chipmunk? Bhante did a live stream and he's talking about chipmunks eating beetles. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going. Go away! Get away from me, from here. Okay? No one has to be here. In being here, you don't even have to like it. This isn't about us liking things. It's not about us agreeing with things. It's showing up and mindfulness and detachment, being mindful and not being uh, tangled up in all these ropes and vines of our thinking. It doesn't mean we reject thinking, because thinking can be very useful. Thinking can be very beneficial if it's used in the right way. What's going on? How can you demand a refund when you haven't been sold anything, when you haven't bought anything, when you haven't really given anything? What can you be refunded? Right? How can I pay you back when you have given nothing? I demand a refund. What's going on here? Sir, this is my home. This is a Buddhist temple. What can I help you with? I've got your refund right here. I've got your I've got your explanation right here. Okay? Or right here, it's a hug, it's a whatever you want to call it. It's mindfulness and detachment. It's not someone, it's not some situation, it's not some place. This is the Dhamma. And the more that we practice this completely, we will flush out, we will clear out all of the kileshas, all of the defilements, all of the wrong view of self, of grasping, right? We will be able to pay back our karmic debts to other people with our joy, with our metta, with our freedom, which is more valuable than money, more valuable than anything else. We want to hold other people to this kind of ultimate standard. Well, what standard do you hold yourself to? You know, what standard do you hold yourself to? That's probably more important than the standard you hold other people to. Let go, breathe. Breathing in, breathing Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. We need to approach our teacher or our guide in this uh, realm of prajna wisdom with mindfulness and detachment. Because if you allow your perceptions of the teacher to cover up the present moment experience of the teacher, then this will confuse you and it will not enable you to make use of the teacher. There are a lot of ways that our perceptions can cheat us and make us miss out on valuable opportunities. Valuable opportunities to give, valuable opportunities to help, valuable opportunities to learn, and most vitally, valuable opportunities to be mindful and to detach. Really, the main encouragement and the main teaching from my side in my, although I talk about many things, but in my online work, in our online Buddhist meditation community, as my role as a spiritual teacher or a leader of a community, the only ask here and the only real um, push or encouragement here, and this is what it needs to be, and this is what I should be held accountable to by the community, right? I request that I will be held accountable to this by the community, is to do good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. To do good deeds, to practice mindfulness, to practice detachment, and to find out what that is. And my role here as the community leader or as the Buddhist monk or as the meditation master in our community is to support people to do that, to do good deeds, to practice mindfulness, to practice detachment, to do good deeds with mindfulness and detachment, to support them to do that, and also to understand what that means. That's the big ask and the big push, and that's really it. Everything else is we can do, people can do what they like. And I also, do what I like. I also have preferences and particular interests. Like I was, looking at us to make a nonprofit or whatever. But especially when it comes to me, because of my role of authority in the community as a monk, the meditation teacher, uh, please hold me to a higher and stronger standard that really I am just here to support doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment and nothing else, really. Faults and errors are to be used only, experienced only, and detached from only, not attached to. In the same way that successes and positive points are to be used only, experienced only, and detached from only, without attachment to. And we work from there. That's where we work from. That's what we work with. That's how this community will continue to grow, not in another way. If you like or dislike something, such as someone or some place or some situation or some experience or some particular time, if you like or dislike that, it's not a big deal. It's nothing to get overly excited about. It's not very important. We can work with that. That the fact that you like something or don't like something is not important. We can sit with that. I'm sitting with that. A place where, or a way of being, a way of sitting and being here at this moment as we are, where agreeing with something or disagreeing with something is irrelevant, is not important at all. It's a powerful place to be. A place where choice is not important, where choice according to preference is not important, is irrelevant. A way, a place where choice according to preference is irrelevant. Go ahead, Morgan. Yeah, please do ask for advice. Yeah, I heard about this, Morgan. Well, we have a body, don't we? Whatever kind of body it is, and there's a mind, and I don't know what the mind is, but certainly there are thoughts. I can think about things in my mind. I can say that, right? And then when we go to certain places, it seems like, if I think about it, if we go to certain places or interact with certain people, there's a feeling of anxiety. There's almost like a panickiness, and we feel like we need to respond somehow to that anxiety, to that panicness, to fix it, to resolve it, to manage it. What I find in myself is that renunciation is very important. And renunciation is like the function of the principle. The principle here is that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, isn't it? So, in your attachment to your job, in your attachment to your friend, in your attachment to these people, places, situations that give you comfort, there's a there's an anxiety that's going to go along with that because those conditioned phenomena are impermanent. In as much as they come into being, they will pass away. So it's at a time that those conditioned phenomena have come into being. And in our grasping onto them, we feel comfort. But we are getting comfort from something that is sure to pass away, that is surely temporary. Isn't it normal to feel anxious about that? No one can practice for you. And if someone tells you what to do, then that may be right or wrong, but you are still the one that's doing it. It's not that person that's doing it. So we should dare to renounce that which we grasp onto that gives us comfort, but is not permanent, not fixed. And so, one of the ways we may be able to work with that is to kind of recollect in our mind this wise idea, this wise thinking that these people, places, situations that we are attached to that give us comfort, that they are impermanent. And we can kind of dwell in that wise thought, that wise recollection that those phenomena are impermanent. So that that sense of clinging or that sense of grasping onto them will be less so, will be calmed. And then our anxiety will not be so much, will not be too much. So the anxiety is not really the problem, it's more like a symptom. And in general, I think we can, like I feel in myself, I can, I like to feel pleasant and joyful and free and energetic, etc. I don't like to feel anxious or tight. But in feeling anxious or tight, uh, maybe I can just feel into that and be with that rather than worrying about it, like making a problem out of it. But maybe it's okay that my body feels anxiety, that that's not something I need to worry about, that that's not something I need to be anxious about. And friends, other ways that you can practice generosity concerned with our space here, you can just leave a like, leave a like on the live stream and leave a comment. If you think these talks have benefit, then you can share it, with some of your friends. That is also generosity. Yeah, I can speak on that. It's called a treasure chest full of shit buried in diamonds. Why would you want to go digging for that? Your present moment experience of being mindful, of seeing, of hearing, of breathing, of direct experience, the foundation of a normal, ordinary, miserable life, or somewhat happy, peaceful life that you may be in, is the best access point for opening up the treasure store of wisdom, peace, compassion, understanding, generosity that we have within ourselves. So, talking about single conscious ray of light transcending duality and sending into multi body, interdimensional bodies, etc., is not correct. And it doesn't, it kind of obfuscates the point that that is dukkha, that the body is dukkha, that mental formations are dukkha, in that they are unsatisfactory. That idea will not satisfy you. Buddhism as an idea will not satisfy you. Words and phrases will not satisfy you. So we learn to not cling to them, but to detach, right? We learn how to detach from complicated thinking about material or mental phenomena. And in that detaching from complicated thinking about mental or material phenomena, nama rupa, we have a lot of extra energy to practice. To practice what? To practice doing good deeds or doing actions of generosity, to practice being mindful, practicing meditation, uh, emphasizing to watch over our actions and be careful that our actions do not cause more uh, clinging, frustration, and more non practical, complicated thinking, right? Thinking, our thoughts, our systems of thinking are to be used only, to be experienced only, or to not be experienced only, or not used only. Used with detachment, not used with detachment. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Okay? We have to become skillful in detachment. All right? We have to become skillful in detachment because the amount of craziness, or really the lack of wisdom, the profundity, the expansiveness of the lack of wisdom that exists in the modern world, right, is very vast and deep, and it's like a sand pit. The situations, the people, the periods of time, the places, etc., that are not informed by prajna wisdom, that are not informed by the Buddha Dharma, are so many. So, in walking around, in terms of the mind, in terms of the body, in terms of interacting with situations, etc., we're going to step in. It's not like a minefield because it's not an explosion per se, although maybe things like that can have, there are minefields, right? And those certainly aren't, minds of wisdom. They're minds of greed, anger, and delusion that explode and, take off limbs. But it's more like a sand trap or a tar pit or quicksand. So we step in it, and then the more we involve, the more we grasp, the more we move around, the deeper we sink into it, right? Whereas when we can detach, we can walk on top of that sand pit and slowly but surely walk our way towards the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, or towards the community of well minded practitioners, or towards that sacred place that we create for ourselves and for others, right? That home of practice, that home of virtue, that home of generosity, that home of prajna wisdom within ourselves and, temples and things too. You cannot go around trying to fix people or trying to convince people of things because it's just quicksand. We may begin to practice detachment through generosity. Give, 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 offer, 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 volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. Okay? So you can find a soup kitchen in your area. You can find a volunteering organization in your area. Or you can take a, like I do. I travel, when I'm here in Southeast Asia, I travel with little toys. These toys aren't so good, but they're fine. So little toys like this, I travel around in my bag, and sometimes it's like fake jewels or some things like that, fake diamonds, fake rubies. Sometimes it's real rubies. I've been gifted some real rubies and I gave them away. And yeah, when I'm walking around and I see the children, I give away some of those gifts. I give away some of those precious items. And like I said, these aren't the best toys, but they're still valuable to me because I know that they can bring some happiness. They can be a gift to one of those babies, right? Helicopter, chicken, and you are surprised when the monk give you your little Sri Lankan baby. You are surprised when the white monk come up and give you a little chicken. So yeah, find a way to volunteer, find a way to be generous, to do actions of generosity, find a way to do good deeds in your home, in your parents' home, in your grandparents' house. Call up your grandma and listen to her, right? Uh, Pull ourselves out of the mud and go do some good deeds, go do some actions of generosity. It can become more subtle as time goes by, right? This generosity, we can become detached. We can practice vipassana meditation or detachment meditation, right? And this is like the development of our generosity. But this is another kind of the chest is full of shit point, right? It's there's diamonds all around it, but you dig down, you don't notice all those diamonds because you're looking for this chest down there that's supposed to be special, right? And then you open it up, well, it's full of shit, fermented human feces. So what you do is you kind of don't focus on getting this special experience or these special ideas about detachment or wisdom, etc. But you actually you prepare yourself, okay? You prepare yourself for the real thing by doing the simple actions of generosity, the simple good deeds, the simple acts of kindness. And then when the time comes along, that chest will bump you on the head and fall in front of you. It'll open up and whoa, look at all that gold. Where'd that come from? And mangoes are good too, you know. Durians are good too. Why does it need to be a treasure chest? Why does it need to be special, complicated spiritual artifacts and gizmos and ideas and entities and beings? Why does it need to be like that? Why can't it be a mango? Why can't it be a blackberry bush that's been nourished by human ore? Or a mango tree that's been nourished by human feces? Or a durian tree? That's probably the best thing for durian is uh, you know, human feces that has been composted. And listen, friends, it is intense, okay? In the same way that, you know, we have an idealistic view of our lives and we don't want to deal with difficult things. And, you know, we want life to be really fine and lovely and we watch out for difficulty and stuff. And oh my gosh, you know, that person is it's intense, it's difficult. Oh, I'm scared of myself. I'm scared of the situation, right? That's all fine. But actually, it's more like you take a plane from Chicago, where it's cold, to Sri Lanka, where it's hot, and you go for a walk outside, and it's hot. That's actually more the intensity that we're dealing with. It doesn't need to be this complicated, delusional, greed filled, frustration filled um, problem. It's much more like dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. And we need to learn how to experience and embrace unsatisfactoriness without spiraling into this nightmare. It's not a nightmare. It's just hot. It's just spicy. It's just spicy food. Why don't you eat it? And don't worry about it too much. You know, even if the food has poison in it, well, you're gonna have to deal with that. So why worry about it? The greatest poison is the poison of loba, doha, mosa, the poison of your greed, the poison of your anger, the poison of your proclivity towards non-practical, complicated thinking. And these habit energies of doing things that fuel that and feed that. That's the poison you need to worry about, not dukkha. Dukkha is helpful to look at and experience. The more we can face dukkha head on, the more we can detach. Our life might be long, it might be short. So why do we need to give this importance to worrying about things? The world certainly doesn't need more worriers. Well, stop trying to prove things. This is our trap. This is our trap. We want to prove it. Prove what? That you're a fool? Prove what? That your body is impermanent? That you are not enlightened? Do I really need to prove that you are not enlightened? We have to stop trying to prove things, right? This is more like where we get into the notion of politics. And actually, it's just about advertising. It's just about manipulating people and convincing people of things. So maybe we stop trying to prove things and we practice and we try to help. And if we're really sincere enough, then we need to be ready to be generous. There are so many ways of interaction that are not accessible to us unless we approach from a position of generosity. You understand? Because if you're not willing to be generous, then whatever fixed view you have on, you don't want to let go of it. Maybe it's a wrong view, maybe it's an angry view, maybe it's a greedy view, it's probably a delusional view, right? And you're hanging on to that, you're grasping onto that. And when we don't know, when we're not powerful to be generous, to give away, to offer, to help, to share, right? Then the possibility of doing things that may loosen this grip are dangerous to us. That's what we feel. And it keeps us to be in this clenched and limited position. And when you're clenched like this and limited like this, it's not just that you're much more restricted from helping other people, but you're also much more likely to cause uh, problems, right? It's like if we're raising a child and we walk around like this all the time because we're clinching onto ideas and wrong views and our greed, our anger. Well, what is that child going to learn to do? To just do like that. So, this notion of generosity, find a way to donate, be involved in your life in making donations, in volunteering. Find an organization, find a group to volunteer in. Maybe there's some possessions in your house that you can give away, that you can offer. Maybe you can offer to give some people some rides or something, right? Get it involved in your life so that you set up this mechanism that is greased and oiled and ready to to be generous in your way of being. Donate, volunteer, give away some of your possessions, put some things down that you've been kind of like arbitrarily setting up as being important. Well, don't use the arbitrarily. Put some things down that you've been setting up as important to you that you might not need to be holding on to. And practice to renounce them, practice to put them down, right? If you have a glass of wine every week, don't drink that wine that week. Give it up, renounce. You can prepare a meal for someone. That's a powerful one, right? Prepare a really nice meal and then offer that to someone that you know maybe doesn't have good capacity to cook for themselves. We've got to learn about letting it go. Right. People are mad at me because they don't want to hear about the truth sometimes. Well, I mean, I can imagine how if someone was following me around trying to tell me about the truth, I might be very annoyed with them. And now they're mad at me because I'm annoyed with them. That's tough. So the generosity, sharing the truth is ah, that's a very high level practice, okay? Sharing the Dhamma. Because mostly, if we try to share the Dhamma when we are uh, less developed, we're more sharing ideas about the Dhamma, and that is not the really the great generosity. Like the greatest generosity is the gift of the Dhamma, but that is not the same as like telling people about your ideas of the Dhamma, right? Or pointing them towards Buddhism. That's not what the greatest giving the Dhamma. It's not talking about sharing your ideas about those things, right? And this gets into maybe more subtle points or subtle dimensions when we, consider, well, how much prajna wisdom do I have? How much insight do I actually have? And you basically can do that through two ways. You do that through testing. So you go into meditation retreats, or you go through certain environments that are difficult. And the other way is the better way, which is association with people who are much further along on the path than you are, being with them, being around them, meditation masters. And then they can tell you, they can say, hey, look, yeah, you've got some understanding, but if you try to teach, it probably won't, not the right time for that just yet. And another way that's a little bit easier to understand this is that in some of the self-help communities, right? I've worked with some young men in self-help communities in the past, a lot of them, and a common practice that they were doing was basically, they were kind of miserable and didn't have anything figured out, and then they figured out a little bit, right? So they got a little bit of success in their self-help program or work, and then they immediately start to go try to teach other people or convince other people that are also very confused about what they should do, etc. Now, can you make some merits doing that? May it help some people? Yes, but it's really tricky territory because you are not a professional in that. And that means that your thoughts about it, your ideas about it, your skill set about it is not particularly valuable to you. Um, and what may happen in that is that you are doing that as a way of grasping rather than giving away. Because giving away, detachment is a subtle quality, and it's not easy to do consistently. That's why the emphasis on generosity is so important, or doing good deeds, like Memory Gray says here, like changing the toilet paper or emptying the dishwasher. These kind of very simple actions of doing good deeds, actions of generosity, because you can't get caught up in it, right? Like when you make a donation, when you give away one of your possessions, these kinds of things, you can't get caught up in that. There's something of value to you, something you hang on to, and then you give it away. It happens like that. Whereas when we go around trying to help people or teach people, that the ego's involved and it's so tangled, and it can be very, very confusing. So it's better we focus on the giving away in terms of material possessions, and in terms of uh, doing simple things like changing the toilet paper, emptying the dishwasher. Now, if you were, for example, a trained therapist, or you were a trained Buddhist monk that had permission from senior meditation masters, etc., to teach and to practice like this, then yeah, of course you can do that, right? If you're a therapist, if you're trained in that field of helping people. If you're a firefighter, if you offer your firefighting duties for free, or if you're a builder and you offer your your building skills for free as an act of generosity, yes, that's a good point. But when we get into these weeds of like the Dhamma and helping people and giving people guidance, have to be very careful about that. And usually, uh, the better practice in that kind of framework of you interacting with those people is just listening to them. right? Just using the power of your practice to just listen to them, and then maybe share something, but share something very much from your heart rather than this idea of the Dhamma, this idea of the truth. Because as much as your idea of the truth is the truth, a punch in the gut is also right. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. So a trained monk's a good teacher uh, practices in such a way that they are a student to their practice, that they are a student to uh, many good meditation masters. They follow masters that are higher than them, right? So I'm in a good position to teach because I'm in a good position to be a student and a follower and a learner, right? Because I have a master, because I follow other meditation masters that are very much higher than me and more developed and cultivated than me, right? So then I can be a good advisor for people because I have good advisors. The people who should not be teaching and don't really know what they're talking about, um, I don't know who they are. So if they present themselves, I'll let them know what I think. See with the eyes, hear with the ears. Listening, compassion. Yeah, then people are difficult to be annoyed with listening and compassion, you know. That's tough to get angry at that. And we should be in such a way where we are a little bit tough to get angry at. Just like the sweet baby, the good baby. How could you be angry at them? You know, you must be a crazy person to be angry at them. And we can get to that position in our lives where just like if the crazy or aggressive or greedy, angry, delusional person comes up to my baby, the baby that's with me, and starts talking nonsense, I'm not going to try to convince that person of anything. I'm going to take that person and throw him out of here, throw him across the mountain, get away, right? Because that's a good baby. What are you talking about? Your delusion, your greed, your anger. That's a good baby, period. We'll protect that one. And so we can also get into that way of being in ourselves where when other people are aggressive to us or, you know, things like that, other people around us will also have that sensibility, you know, that they will protect and take care and support us. Not because of some intellectual justification, but because we're open to just being in our awareness. And there's an innocence in that. There's a trustworthiness in that. There's a freedom in that. It doesn't mean that the baby doesn't steal cookies. It doesn't mean the baby doesn't shit themselves. Okay? But it does mean that there's an innocence in them. And that innocence is worthwhile of protection. That innocence is, in a sense, blameless. And the people who don't get that should shut up, help themselves or in some other way, or get out of the way. No other options. And if we feel if we feel strong enough to try to help those kinds of people that want to interfere or kind of bring negativity to innocence, then yeah, we can try, we can reach out, but we should hold the priority to be our path to nibbana, our path to freedom, our path to awakening. And when we notice that trying to help these low level people raise their level or calm down or understand more clearly, when we find that is interfering with our own internal path to nibbana, to our own personal development, we should be open to stepping back and letting that go, and making sure that our community, that our relationships with other people who are on the path to nibbana is robust. So that if there is untoward aggression that would prevent us from focusing on our path to nibbana, that we have a community to be a part of and to take refuge in, right? And that's really what taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha is partly about, right? That we can have the full supports to continue on this path, regardless of the views and the opinions and the uh, narratives of this samsara world, right? This world of suffering, this world of illusion. We have to be ready to detach and to renounce. That is the most important. Death, sickness, old age, and all the kinds of karmic retribution that we can experience in our lives is shocking and intense and can be very, very difficult. So we have to be ready to renounce, to detach, to be mindful with detachment, to cut, to finish, right? This renunciation is very much about that. To cut, to finish, to end, to resolve instantaneously, concerned with the Dhamma rather than with the worldly views. And really be willing to experience ourselves, to experience our fear, to experience our vulnerability, but not to dwell in it, to dwell in our practice of mindfulness and doing good deeds and detachment. Detachment, this willingness to let go, to put down, to forgive, to stop, to detach. Through generosity, through doing good deeds, through doing volunteering, through doing actions of uh, generosity, such as donating, such as volunteering, such as cleaning public toilets, such as volunteering at the local homeless shelter, for example. Okay? Not about your ego, not about, you feel good about helping people or something. It's about the generosity, the giving away your personal power, giving away your personal position of authority or freedom. Just giving away, giving away. Body starting to get a little bit friendly with uncomfortableness. But that's a power, meditation isn't about feeling good as much as it is about, maybe I don't know what meditation is about. So, how can I find out? How can we find out what meditation is about? By practicing meditation. And what is the practice of meditation? Well, we find a comfortable and stable position for our body. we can really get comfortable sitting upright. We can start to focus on our breathing. Simply following our breathing as it flows in and flows out. And whatever thought comes up, whatever experience happens, we return to just focusing on our breathing, especially not the idea of breathing, the concept about breathing, but really focusing on the experience of breathing in the body. Closing our eyes is known to be helpful, so we can try to experiment with having our eyes closed when we practice meditation, so that we aren't looking outside anymore, but we're looking within. And breathing deeply and fully in the natural way. So we're not forcing that, but naturally, breathe fully. Give your full heart and body to the breathing and allow that breath. Give the breath permission to be deep and thorough. And in that, being with the breathing, we can call it focusing on the breathing, that's fine. There's no goal, there's nowhere to go. We're not on a mission to get somewhere. Just breathing, experiencing where we are in each breath. And everything else that comes about comes into the mind or the bodily experience, practicing to kind of put that down, use the arm of the mind to find that, oh, I've got a hold of something, some idea, some experience in the body, and then to place that down and come back to the breathing. in the mind there is so much space for so many thoughts. So we don't need to try and get rid of any thoughts or push anything out in our practice of meditating, focusing on the breathing, just breathing. There's plenty of space in the mind. As many thoughts as you have, it's not a problem because there's a lot of space in the mind. So just notice, aware, if you're really kind of getting a hold of something, place that down and then returning to the breath, the fullness of the breath, the depth of the breath, the momentariness of the experience of the breath. We may also hear sounds in our environment and be aware of the physical sensations in the body. Those are there. Some emotions may come up, thoughts may come up, narratives, coming back to the breath, giving the breath to the body, giving the mind to the body, the awareness of the body, letting it be what it is. If something is really yelling out for your attention, some sensation in the body particularly, give your attention to it. That's okay. You can look at it. You can feel that, experience that, and also go back to your breathing as is natural. There is no secret you behind the scenes. You, whatever you are, whoever I am, is just right here. Experience that just right here-ness. Let all the bullshit fall away, even if it's just for a few moments of release, a few moments of rest from being so full of shit. No secret you, no hidden person, no hidden conspiracy of the world or oneself. Just this moment, just this experiencing. There's no moment, but this experiencing, this noticing, this presence that is vivid and directly experienced now, moment by moment. Really opening to that, allowing that. Closing the eyes can be helpful because we're not looking outside anymore. We look within ourselves. back to the breathing. Nothing special, nothing wild, just sitting and breathing, noticing, aware. Whatever thought one has is just okay, not a problem. Whatever feeling in the body one has is just okay, not a problem. Whatever experience or situation at this moment in your life is just okay, not a problem. paying homage to the Buddha and taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends, you can get more resources and learn more about our group at our website, monklife.one. Best of luck on your journey. May you always remember that letting go is more important than holding on. Good luck. Teruwan Saranai. Teruwan Saranai. Blessing of the Triple Gem.